Hey, everybody, this is Kasim Sulton, and you are on BackstageAxxess.com, where the real show begins.
All right, hello everybody. This is Tom Jennings, and you're on BackstageAxxess.com, and we have a real treat today. We have Mr. Kasim Sulton, and we're here today to discuss. We could discuss a lot of things, but the reason we're here today is to discuss his brand new album. It is called Kasim 2021. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest when I say this. Artists always say this is the best album that they've ever done, but this is definitely the best solo album that Kasim has ever done, and I own them all, so I don't say that lightly. And they do seem to get better each time. And I do want to first of all begin by congratulating you, Kasim, on such a great record. And it just came out a few days ago. What's been the initial reaction?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it, and of course, I appreciate you having me on. What has the initial reaction been? I kind of try not to concern myself with that. I at this point in my career, I am of the mindset that, you know what, I did my job. I worked very, very hard on a record, on a collection of songs, along with Phil Thornalley, who produced the record. And so after that, it's kind of out of my hands. It's of course I hope everyone likes it, but I am not. It used to be that I would go on Facebook and check, comments and stuff like that, and look at reviews and things like that. And while all that is very important, I cannot obsess over that like I used to. It's just, I did the best record that I possibly could. If someone loves it, if someone likes it, if someone gets some enjoyment out of it, then I'm happy.
Well, that's great. And I as I mentioned in the intro, I have all of your solo albums. There's 4 of them. The last one was a record called 3. And I know 3, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a little bit of a difficult process. There were things going on at the time. A great record. But I remember at the time he said, this is going to be my last solo record because of the difficulty of the process. So I'm wondering, what was the impetus for you to decide to do another solo album? And how was this experience better or different than what you went through with 3?
I think that part of the reason why I thought that at the time was the twists and the turns that the music industry has taken over the past 15 years. I did that. I started that record probably in 2010, I guess, and there was some upheavals personally during that time in my life, and but I'm very proud of that record. I think it's a really, really good record, and I think my idea after that was that what I was going to do was I was going to release material as I completed it. Obviously, that didn't happen the way that I envisioned it. What did happen was about, I guess it was about 2017, I think, maybe, or mid 2017, late 2017. I was over in England and I was visiting with Phil, and he asked me if I had any plans to do another record, and I said I didn't. I really didn't have any plans to do another complete record. And he said, well, do you have any material written? And I said, yeah, of course. I have a few things here and there, stuff that I'm working on. And he said, well, play me something. Play me some stuff. And I did. And he's like, well, why don't you just do another record? And I love and trust Phil so much that I said, okay. And that's how it started. We started with about three songs out of the maybe half a dozen ideas that I played for him. And then it kind of blossomed from that.
That's awesome. I think I've actually got a Phil solo album kicking around here for many years ago.
Wow, that's really cool. That's cool.
as a record collector. So a great combination. I think Phil did some work on 3 with you as well. Didn't you do some co-writes?
Yeah,
on that?
Phil produced 3 songs on 3. Yeah, I think so.
So you mentioned Phil obviously is on this record. You know, a lot of us haven't had the chance to get the liner notes or anything like that. I know John Siegler is on a cut as well, which is a pretty cool story that people should definitely look up why you chose John and your connection to him through, you know, Todd Rundgren. But who else is on this particular record that maybe we don't know about?
Well, Gil plays synthesizer on one of the songs. I love working with Gil. He's great. He took over the keyboard chair in Utopia, the Utopia reunion in 2018. So I really, when there was a spot for him on the record, and I was happy to have him. A very, very dear friend of mine, and also a very, very close friend of Phil's, Mickey Curry, who is Bryan Adams' drummer, used to be with Hall & Oates and a bunch of other people. Mickey plays drums on 2 tracks, and Keith Scott is Bryan Adams' guitar player, plays on one track. And then, of course, Prairie Prince, the drummer for the Tubes, and Todd Rundgren. Prairie plays on 2 tracks as well.
Awesome. Well, it's a great cast of characters. Now, the album itself, I noticed it's kind of bookended by maybe some very relevant messages, especially in the COVID era, but even more having to do with kind of the political divisiveness that's out there. Not to say that they're political songs, but More Love opens, Peace, Love, and Understanding, which is just an amazing song written by Nick Lowe, made popular by Elvis Costello. Was that intentional? I mean, I think More Love's message kind of sounds like it's similar in nature to Peace, Love, and Understanding, but a little bit more, I don't know. I guess More Love is more optimistic, whereas Peace, Love, and Understanding kind of seems angrier, but even more relevant than it was when it was written in the 80s.
You know, it wasn't a conscious decision on our part to bookend the record like that. I mean, the funny thing is that these days nobody really listens to a record from top to bottom. You kind of skip around, or you put your player on shuffle, or you just go to Spotify or iTunes and listen. As you know, it's like maybe you see a title that you think, oh, maybe I might like that song. So the days of a needle drop where or a CD where you just put a CD in a CD player or a piece of vinyl on a turntable, those are the exception, not the rule. When we finished recording, I think it was the majority of the record. There was about 11 songs that we had finished recording. We hadn't started mixing yet. Phil thought that we needed one more song to complete the vibe of the record, and came to me with an idea that rounded out the rest of the record. And so then he played me a little bit of More Love, the idea for More Love, and I said, okay, I like that. Let's go with it. The thing about More Love that to me makes it a special song is that we looked at the album as a whole and decided what do we need that complements the entire body of work, and that's where More Love came in. That's why I insisted that it was the first single, because I thought it was a very, very good indication of what the rest of the record was like, so that people weren't like, they didn't listen to one song and said, well, this is the rest of the record doesn't sound anything like this. So I thought it was a very, very good way to be introduced to the new record and the basic vibe on it. And then, like I said, it just so happened to be the lead off track on the record. Yeah,
it's a great cut. I really enjoy it, and it is a perfect opener for the record. So I agree with that. And I just, as I said, I noticed that Peace, Love, and Understanding was the bookend. So intentional or not, I think it does kind of wrap everything together in a very nice package.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's very it's a very Kasim Sulton type of tune. That's the type of song that you would expect to hear from me. So it made perfect sense for me to start the record like that.
And then the next cut is, I believe I make an appearance on it in the song Unsung. Some of us submitted some tracks and you had a
you were on
participation component. So I appreciate that. When I first heard it, I was very excited, but on the previous record, you had us all send in pictures. And on this one, you had everybody send in some audio clips. But the song itself, I mean, I think The Traveler on the last album was probably the most autobiographical. Is Unsung, I mean, is that kind of how you were feeling in a moment, or is that how you sometimes look at your career?
I don't necessarily want to pigeonhole that particular track in any one direction. It is somewhat autobiographical, but it's also fictitious. I mean, if you take a look at the lyrics on that one, it is very, I talk about being on the road and then paying bills and I mentioned Todd in the song, and I talk about songwriting. So, it's just, both Phil and I are huge fans of being just a little sarcastic, a little tongue-in-cheek, a little kind of like a little whimsical, and so that's where that track comes from.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Thanks.
And it's when God kicked the stone. I'm looking down here because I had some notes that went a little bit further. Somebody was putting something online today, wondering if you had messed up the vocal track when you laughed during that track, but you later on you mentioned about the fact that the way God's treating that particular character, you had to laugh. So obviously that was intentionally included, correct?
No.
It was not.
No, Phil did or said something in the studio during the lead vocal on that track, and I laughed, and he said, "I'm keeping it."
Wow.
that was completely spontaneous.
In some ways, it really works well with the song, because it said later, you say I had to laugh in the lyrics, and there was the laugh in it. So I thought, oh, well, maybe that was, but I was going to say that it sounded so convincing. I almost wondered how you pulled it off, but I guess that explains the story behind it. Yeah.
Actually, that song, it didn't start off as God Kicked the Stone. It started off as I can't for the life of me remember what the lyric that we came up with was, but I just thought afterwards that boy, it would be really nice to mention God in a track, and it worked. So that's how that started.
Yeah, it's the vocals, the instrumentation on that is really haunting. So anybody out there listening, I mean, that's a track you definitely want to check out when you're listening to the album. I mean, it's, and honestly, Kasim, I'm not just saying this. I mean, your vocal performance on this particular record is just all the way around. It's just outstanding. I mean, your inflection, your phrasing, it's just everything, all the material just seems so well suited for your style.
When we started working on the record, I said, one of the things that I said to Phil that was very important to me was I want to be able to make sure I can play this stuff live, because live performances are just such an important part of today's music industry, and so I kind of tried to do everything, write melodies that weren't going to be impossible for me to duplicate in a live setting. And that meant that everything had to be pretty comfortable for me to sing.
All right. Well, let me throw a couple more songs at you, then a couple unrelated to Kasim 2021 questions about future plans, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Sure.
In the Name of Love, I tell you, there's a song that, man, I hear that and it just makes me long for those good old days in Utopia. Do you think of all the tracks on the record, maybe that would have been the most utopian, so to speak? Because I think with your solo work, it's interesting because it doesn't sound like, a solo guy from Utopia. It definitely sounds unique to you. But on occasion, you just hear some of that stuff that we really fell in love with from your Utopia days. And that one, for some reason, was just pure ear candy the minute that I heard it.
Huh. Interesting, because I wouldn't have picked that one as the most utopian-ish track on the record. I think that there's probably the I mean, maybe on the network record, maybe
yeah
it on the network record, that particular track. But then there's also other tracks that might work on Adventures or Deface the Music, or the Her Love Is Sunshine. You might have heard something like that on Deface the Music. So who knows? I mean, I did not sit down to write anything that was utopian-ish, utopia-ish. I just sat down, and whenever Phil would come to me with an idea, or I came to Phil with an idea, and we just kind of tried to weed out which ones we thought were worthy to be finished, and which ones you kind of got to kick to the curb.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned the Network album, because that was my introduction to Utopia. So maybe that makes sense where it would sound the most utopia to me, because it really does have that kind of beautiful. I mean, that album was loaded with amazing hooks, and unfortunately, it didn't go as far as it should have commercially, just because of promotional issues and whatnot.
Yeah, that a lot of those records were not promoted the way that they should have been, but that's it's water under the bridge.
It's water under the bridge, and I guess we'll close with this one. Speaking of water under the bridge, Blame Somebody Else. I mean, there's just a fun song right there. Again, they're loaded with hooks, and it's a theme that I think everybody can relate to, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, that kind of reminds me of a Weezer song, actually. It kind of be like, especially in the chorus. It's I'm a Weezer fan, so it made sense to try to, when we came up with the idea. And Phil is very he has a tendency to, like, if you're thinking about going in a particular direction with a song or an idea, he takes it even further in that direction. So while I normally would not do a song that's that heavy, but because I'm working with a producer, I trust his ears and his ideas and his ability to kind of make me comfortable with whatever it is that we're doing.
Well, let's wrap it up here. So Joan Jett, Hall & Oates, Cheap Trick, and of course the Cars / New Cars, all in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as is Todd Rundgren, going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You've played with all of them. I had a discussion with Gus from BackstageAxxess, guy who runs the site. I go, guys like Kasim Sulton should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, just because on some level, I mean, look at the people that you've touched and the records that you've touched. And I know it doesn't frustrate you. You're not a guy that seeks recognition or awards. And I say that in all sincerity. But don't you think it'd be kind of cool if the industry kind of recognized the other players in the bands that, kind of helped their career? I mean, you've been, of course, with Todd, probably one of the most important players in his career, whether he acknowledges that or not, which I think he would, because you're always around. But, what's your thoughts on it? Because I know Todd doesn't like the Rock Hall, and I'm just kind of curious what your thought is, since you've been around all these people that have been inducted.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that he doesn't like it. I think that I think he I think he understands the whole concept behind it. Maybe whether he agrees with it or disagrees with it, that's not for me to say. But I also think that anytime that you're recognized by a body of your peers is a very, very good thing, and it's certainly a lot of positive reinforcement. I'm very happy that Todd got inducted. I think that he deserves to be recognized like that. And it's a special thing. Would I like to be recognized in some way, shape, or form? Of course, who wouldn't? But will I lose sleep over it? I don't think so.
All right, so I guess we'll finish up with future plans. I know I'll be seeing you first night of the tour in Boston with Todd Rundgren. You got that coming up. You've also got another project called the Gilmour Project, which is coming out our way to the Buffalo, New York area in January.
Right.
What can you tell us about anything quickly on the Todd tour? Because I know those fans will be wanting to know. And secondarily, what about the Gilmour Project and maybe how you got involved with that? And then we'll wrap this thing up.
Well, the Todd tour is, this was the tour that we were supposed to do in 2020, over a year. And I guess it was probably supposed to be April of 2020. And of course, the entire world just shut down for a year and a half. So it got moved, and it's a very interesting tour. It is a Weezer True Star. And then that's the first half of the show will be one side of a Weezer True Star, Todd's groundbreaking record, and then the other side, the other half of the show will be a collection of his solo material that he decides is important to include in a live performance. One night, we're doing multiple nights. Most of the shows are multiple nights in certain venues. So we will do one night is one side of a Weezer True Star. The next night is the other side of the album, and then the second half of the show will be the what Todd calls the individualist portion of the show. So we did a Weezer True Star back in 2000 and I want to say 2008, I believe.
Yeah.
We did a bunch of shows like that. So it's going to be similar to that. And then as far as my plans go, I just did a couple of shows to promote my record. I'm doing another live stream on September 30th out of WDST the radio station that I have a radio show on Sunday nights called It's My World, and welcome to it. So I will be doing that on September 30th, and then the next day I start the Todd tour, and then I guess the thing that after that is we come into the holiday season. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and then start right up again in January with the Pink Floyd tribute, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called. The Pink Floyd Project, I think.
The Gilmour Project.
The Gilmour Project. Well, it's not the Gilmour Project. We did the Gilmour Project, and that was strictly David Gilmour material. This is, I know what it is. It's the Dark Side of the Moon. It's the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's what those shows will be in January. And then I probably will be going out on the road with Kasim Sulton's Utopia again in early spring of next year.
Well, good. We'd love to have you back at the Trough. They just renovated.
I would. They did they open in the same building? Is it the same place?
Same building, yeah. They were going to close it down, but they wound up opening up the same building. But man, good. That show, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Too.
Awesome. Well, as always, thank you very much, Kasim. It's a pleasure. You probably heard a little bit of barking in the background. It's my dog, whose name is indeed Kasim. So you both were able to.
Okay.
My buddy Gus said, you know, I hope Kasim is quiet during this thing. I said, I don't know, man. It's funny when we play your music for him, he actually kind of perks up as well. So,
well, that's interesting.
It's kind of a funny thing, but yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you out on the road. And you always wind up finding your way to Western New York, and if not, then I always figure out a way to go see you as well. So
all right,
I appreciate
great.
it, Kasim.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll see you soon.